Hi everyone, welcome again. It's been long since our last tutorial on this series. So for today, I want us to go through the setup of VS Code, and then at the same time we will try to upgrade our microservices that we have been working on from the previous sessions to make use of Java 21 and also the latest Spring Boot starter template. And in this case, we're going to work on the actual microservices that I think we have built from the last sessions. So to get started, I'm just I've cleared everything to do with the Java setup and VS Code. So I'll be taking you through the same process of coming up with the those particular tools for the development. So we are going to get started. So the first thing that you are going to do is to head over to Oracle Java Technologies. So in this case, I'm going to make use of Java 21. So dependent on the operating system that you are using, you will choose the actual file. I'm using 21.03 at the point of recording this video. So for today, I'll be making use of Windows system. So in this case, I'm just going to download the compressed archive file. And then if you are using another system, then you can choose Linux compressed version for the Linux version. And then at the same time, if you are using Mac, you can make use of the compressed archive. So I have my download. So the first thing that you can see here, I have my download JDK 21.03. The next tool that we'll be setting up is going to be Visual Studio Code. And in this case, we are going to head over to code.visualstudio.com /download. And then from there, dependent on the operating system that you're using, you choose the actual link or the button that corresponds to your operating system. So I have mine downloaded. So the next thing I'm going just to do is to show how then do you set up a Java home and also ensure that your Java is set to the correct version. So to get started, you just extract that particular zip archive, and in this case I have my extracted folder, and then in this case we have this corresponding JDK 21.03. So I want to transfer this one to my correct location where I be able to store all this particular application that I need to set on the environment. So I'm going to go to my apps, and then within the apps I'm going to paste the extracted file or folder for JDK. Then from there you just need to open it, and then on the address bar on Windows just select and copy this particular link. Alright, so the next thing that you're going to do is Control R. Alright, so just Control Windows R, and in this case you're just going to search system settings, or at the same time you can just right click here and then go to show options, and then from there properties, and in this case it's going to open the actual properties of your system, and then from there just select advanced setting, and that will be able to open this particular window. And in this case you are going to go to environment variables. So from there I'm going just to show you how you will be able to create one. So we are going to have the variable name being Java in caps underscore home. And then from there you just need to paste the value of the address bar to this particular location. So once that is set, then we be proceeding. So for my case, I'm using JDK 22, and so for this case I'm going just to update this one to refer to JDK 21. So I click OK, and then the next thing that you need to do is to ensure that our Java executable is accessible through the path. So you just need to scroll up here and find the variable path and double click it. Then once you double click, you'll be able to see that we need to set the actual location. So I'm going just to delete this one and then set the reference to the JDK 21. So in that case, you just click new and then do %, and then you just need to say Java underscore home, then %, and then \, /bin. So this is where the executable of our Java application is. So it's the Java home/bin, which is this particular folder, and in this case you'll be able to see that we have our Java executable and the Java compiler. So once you have that, then you click OK everywhere, and all that is set. So if you open now this the terminal anywhere in your application, so for this case I might just to open CMD here, and then for this case I might just to have here, and then I just need to confirm that my Java has been set to the correct version by specifying Java version, and you can see that now I'm referring to Java 21.03. So that is how you set the basic minimum for Java. So the next thing that you're going to do is to set up a Visual Studio Code. So once you have the executable downloaded, what you need to do is go to Downloads and then double click the executable, and it will start the installation process. So for this case I'm going to select accept agreement, and then from there I usually love specifying the location of my files where my apps are going to be. So I might just right click and proceed to the location of my apps that I'm installing, and then I'm going to select that one. So it's going to be under C apps Microsoft VS Code. Click next, and then add that to the path, and then from there just click install. Alright, so the installation is done. So you just click launch Visual Studio Code, and that will be able to open this Visual Studio Code. So the first thing that we are going to do is just click mark done for this one, and then I'll be able to show you how we are going to work with the actual setup. So the first thing that you're going to do here is going to be, for all the applications, we want to install one particular extension which will be able to allow us to make use of IntelliJ key shortcuts on VS Code. So what I'm going to do is just search for IntelliJ key bindings. So once you have this one, IntelliJ key bindings, just click install, and then the other one that I'm going to install is the IntelliJ theme. So just scroll down and you can install this particular IntelliJ Dracula theme, which comes from George Kuti Joyous. So I'm going just to install this one also. Alright, so I'm installing these two extensions so that I can be able to have the IntelliJ field, and now once that is installed, just select IntelliJ Dracula theme. Alright, so with that, do extensions, then what we are going to do is to install a good extension, which is going to be Atom Material Icons. So I'm going just to install this particular one. So install Atom Material Icons, and then for this case I'm going to ensure that all these extensions that we have installed are applied to all the different profiles. Alright, so once the Atom Material Icons has been installed, then we are going to set that one as Atom Material Icons as the icon theme. So the next thing that you're going to do is click on the settings tab for each particular extension, and then apply extension to all the profiles. So I'm going just to check on the installed extensions, come to settings, and then click apply extension to all the profiles that I'm going to create, and then the same thing here on apply extensions to all the profiles. So the next thing that you're going to do is now set up Spring Boot in VS Code. So the next thing that you want to do is just come here under manage, click under profile. As you can see right now we are on the default profile. Then what you're going to do is just create profile, and this particular profile I'm just going to call it Spring. Alright, so from there you need, on the drop down copy from, we are going to make use of the general Spring Boot extensions, which is Java Spring. There is a custom list of extensions that you need to set up for you to work with Java and Spring Boot within VS Code. So I'm going just to click Java Spring and then click create. As you can see, it's still applying the extensions, so it's creating the Spring Boot and applying all the different, installing the different extensions. So we can just give it a moment. So it will take a moment, so just be patient. Alright, so as you can see that it is installed the different extensions to do with Java and Spring Boot, and one particular extension, as you can see here, the debugger for Java, and then also the extension pack for Java, which has the language support for Java, Maven for Java, IntelliJ Code, and also Project Manager for Java. So also in addition to that, it has installed the Spring Boot extensions, which is the Spring Boot extension pack, which is having the initializer support, the Spring Boot tools, and the Spring Boot dashboard. And then in addition to that, we have our original extensions applied to this one. So to confirm, you can see that at the moment we are running on the Java Spring profile. Now we are not running on default, so we are running on Spring profile. So the next thing that we need to do is to quickly set up a folder for our project. So the next thing, just click this icon here, and then click File, and then click Add Folder to Workspace. And for this case, I'm going just to put my applications on desk no documents. Then from there, I'm just going to create a new folder, which is going to be Microservices. So with that, I'm just going to select that, and that will be my workspace folder. So you can see that everything that I'm going to do is going to be in this particular workspace folder. So the next thing that I am going to do is to save this workspace so that it's a workspace for Spring Boot alone. So in this case, I'm going just to click File, then Save Workspace As, and then from there I'm just going to put it under Documents so that it's not in the same directory as the microservice. So I'm going just to select that, and you can see that now I have my workspace containing the workspace folder. Now the next thing that we want to do is now to go back to all our services from GitLab. So what I'm going to do is just right click here and then click Open Integrated terminal, and in this case I just have a nice terminal here. But then what I'm going to do is switch the default terminal. Instead of PowerShell, I want to make use of Git Bash. So what I'm going to do is just go to Settings again, then click Settings, and then for this one I'm going just to say Default Profile. So I'm going just to say search for default profile, and we'll be able to see that that is terminal integrated default profile, and in this case I'm going to make use of Git Bash. So whenever I open any terminal within VS Code, then it's going to locate the actual Git Bash, and it's going to make use of that. So I'm going just to open this one. Sorry. So for this case, you can see that now I'm under my workspace documents / microservices. So from the past sessions, we have been working on different microservices. So what we are going to do today is just try to make use of them and set up them locally in your machine. So to do that, we are going to head over to my repository, which I'm going to share on the link video description. For the different projects that we have worked on. So the first service that we are going to look at is going to be the employee service. So select that particular link and click on if you can just see this one is that if I try to zoom out this one, you can see that it's under GitHub or John / employee service. So what I'm going to do is just clone this particular repository locally, and I can start using it. So I'm going just to say git clone, and I'm going just to paste the URL of the particular link for the project. So you can see that now I have my project set here. So the next thing that you'll be able to see if you open this particular project, you can see that it's made of the Java application, and which is making use of Maven. So there's a video on how to install Maven. You can just quickly have a look, but then if you have it set, then we can proceed. So with this, we need to open this POM file. As you can see, this is made up of the actual structure of the different dependencies that we require, and also the Docker build image information using Zip Maven plugin. And then for the other thing is that if you expand on the mains and then Java and control config, you can see that all the different files that are here. So what I'm going to do is just quickly enable my extension for Spring Boot. So what I'm going to do is just come here and enable this particular extension. So I'm going just to apply. Already it's enabled. So quickly you can set it as the file icon. So I'm going to just click set file icon and then set that one. Now you can see that my icons is changed and they will be nice looking. Alright. So the next thing that we need to do is quickly try to run this particular application. But then before that, it's going to start activating the extension for Java, so that it has recognized that we have opened a Java application. So it's going to activate the Java extension so that we can be able to get started. So let's just wait for it to finalize activating and then we proceed. Alright, so you should be able to see something like this one, opening Java project. So it is picked up the extension and it has made a build of the project, and all the different resources that are being generated will be tracked within the target folder. So that is how automatically it's able to know that this is a Java application. So once it's done, then it's going to proceed to the next one. So from our previous session, you'll be able to realize that my configurations are actually quite simple. They are very simple, and they are referring to the configuration Eureka server address, which is supposed to be under localhost. And in this case, you can see that this service requires few configurations which are coming from Eureka server address. Now let's address this one so that you can be able to have the different configuration. So in this case, we require different configurations. So those configurations are in another repository. So I'm going just to quickly download that one again. Also, head over to my GitHub repository, click on the main page, and then select on repositories, and then you'll be able to see that we have the demo config repo. So this demo config repo is the one that holds the different configurations that I need to set. So what I'm going to do is just quickly clone this one to my local repository of microservices. While in the same path of microservices, I'm going just to do git clone and then git clone and then paste the URL there. So this one is going to quickly clone the configuration repository. So as you can see now, the employee service, this is the configuration for the employee service. So in this case, we require the data source configurations, and then we require the Eureka instance registry, and in this case you can see that it's actually referring to the localhost Eureka instance. So what you're going to do, we also require to have this particular instance given within the application. So what we are going to do, we need the config server. So the config server is going to be this particular, if you head over to the repository section and then you click on the demo configuration server, and then from there you can see that we have the demo configuration server. So in this case, we are just going to quickly do another clone, so git clone and then set up that particular application, and you'll be able to see that we have the demo configuration server open, right? So the last thing that we are going to do, second last thing, is going to be downloading these other services. So the next one that we are going to do is to download the demo discovery server. So let's download that demo discovery server, and then from there you can set it up. So the next thing is git clone and then specify the URL then you'll be able to see that we have the demo configuration server. Then we have now the API gateway, which we need to download, which is this one, demo API gateway. Alright, so you're going to also copy the link and download. So git clone and then paste the URLs. Right, so you can see that we are quickly setting up our services that we want to work on. Alright, so simply that said, then the next last service, I think we have how many services? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's just download the department service also, which we worked in our previous sections. So in this case, we are going to do git clone and specify the URL. Alright, so as you can see, all these particular services, if you just quickly open the POM file, you can see that it's recommending that we install this particular extension, so we can just click that install, and you can see that all these particular applications are using 3.26 as the starter template. Alright, so you can see that I have 3.26 all for the services. Okay, so what you're going to do is going to be very simple to upgrade this to the latest dependency version and also make use of the latest starter template. So you can see that all these ones are making use of the 3.26. The point when we had worked on those particular projects, we are using 3.26. So what we are going to do is to make necessary changes to upgrade to the latest version of Spring Boot. Alright, so the first thing we are going to do is quickly start with the one of the services. So we are going to start with the employee service, and in this case what we are going to do is go to Spring Initializer, and then as you can see here we are going to click once the project is synchronized, we'll be able to see that we want to upgrade. So I'm going just to control click, and that will be able to upgrade my version to the latest version. So it's just control click, and then you'll be able to find it loading the right receipts, and then from there it's going to upgrade the dependency. Alright, so this might work for you or it might not work, so dependent on or how your setup is done. So what are we going to do? Let's just do it the manual way by just going to the Spring Initializer project. So you're going to search Spring Initializer project. So here we're going to start, that is start.spring.io. So what we're going to do is we're going to make use of Maven, we're going to make use of the latest version of Spring Boot, which is 3.32, which is the final. And then from there, we are going to select Java 21, alright? So we're going to select jar and Java 21. So from here, we are going to quickly add a few things. So the first one that we're going to add is going to be cloud config. So we are going to select config client, and then from there, that is the only thing. I'm going just to have the dependency updated. So from there, just click on the explore page, and then you'll be able to see that our Spring Boot version will be set to 3.32. So we are going to copy this and update it within our project, which is 3.32. Then from there, we need to upgrade the Spring Cloud dependencies. As you can see, for this case, we have this particular tag of requiring us to upgrade the version of Java. So the next thing that you're going to do here quickly is going to be upgrading this particular Java version. So I'm going just to update that and have it here. Alright, so with that, you'll be able to see that now my dependencies have been upgraded. So the next thing that we'll be doing is to try, and so for this case it's going to ask me for synchronization. I'm going just to say always synchronize, right? So whenever I make an update on the POM file, then it's going to update the dependencies. So looking at this, you can see that there is no other dependencies apart from this one, which is having a version update. So with that, you can see that now I'm good to go for this particular upgrade for this particular service. So the next thing that you need to do is go to the department service and do the same. So open the POM file, and then from here we are going to update the same version. So I'm going just to copy the starter version here and then update it here, and then from there I'm going to update the Java version. So in this case, we are going just to search for Java version. So I'm going just to have this one. Alright, update that, and then looking down, we have everything set as that, and there is no other dependency that we are going to upgrade for now, apart from upgrading the Spring Cloud dependencies. So that we are going to make use of this Spring Cloud version, which is going to be 2023. So I'm going just to update that one down here. So update that, and just to confirm from the employee service that we don't have also that, yeah, we need to make that update down here for the Spring Cloud dependencies. So that is going to be that. Okay, so we have updated our Spring Cloud dependencies, we have upgraded our starter version, and at the same time for the two services, everything is done. So the next thing that for this department service, we need to we are going to synchronize all that. So I'm going just to close those two, and then from there proceed to the discovery server, and then for this case we are going to do the same thing. So it's 3.32, and then from there we're going to have Spring Cloud version, which is referring to this variable up here, which is going to be 2023.3, and then we are going to change the Java version to 21, right? So those are the amendments that we are making for each particular service. So I'm opening this one too. So this is going to be 3.3.2, and then for this case we are going to run with Java 21, and then for this other one we are going to run with Spring Boot Cloud of 2023.03. So we're done with the configuration server. So we go to the API gateway and do the same. Alright, so this is going to be 3.3.2, and then Java 21. So we're going to work with Java 21, and then for this case we are going to have version 3. Alright, so as you can see, everything is set and we are good to go. So the next thing is to try to run this particular application set and see what is going to happen. So the first thing that you'll be able to see within our demo configuration repo on the employee service, we are making use of MySQL of port 30 localhost, that the 3.06, and the DB name is going to be department, DB name which is employee. And then for the other service which requires the database is the department service, and you can see that its configuration is indicating we are going to connect the same MySQL, and we are going to have another database known as department DB. So within the employee service, I have the Docker compose file, right? So this Docker compose file contains the script for Docker which starts the MySQL. So I'm going to make use of the latest MySQL, and then I'm going to make use of the root password as this one, and then the default database that is going to be created is going to be employee, and then for this other one we have the port that is exposed, and then we are going to make use of MySQL data, and then we are going to create this one. Alright, so let me quickly check up with the Docker desktop. I'm using Docker desktop, and then click on volumes. So I'm going just to delete this particular volume that was already created so that we can start afresh. Alright, so with that we have everything set. So what you're going to do is open the terminal within this employee service by right-clicking this one, and then from here we are going to do docker compose app -d. That means we are going to run Docker on this particular file. Wherever the Docker compose file YAML file is, then we are going to run that. So with this, you can see that it's going to create MySQL and it's going to start MySQL. Right, so let's just confirm that that container has been created. As you can see, employee service MySQL data has been created as a volume, and then the other one is that we have our employee service MySQL running, and you can see the status is running 16 seconds ago. So the next thing that we want is to log into this MySQL and create the additional database. So you do that by saying docker exec my IT, that is interactive terminal, MySQL, and then you specify the organ. So in this case, we are going to specify bash. As you can see, now I'm logged into the bash of that particular container. So I'm going just to do MySQL -u assigned to be root, and password is assigned to be generic. Right, so I'm going to put my generic password here. Right, so for this case, you can see that if I just show databases, you can see that we have the employee DB created. So let me create the other additional database required by the department service. So in this case, I'm just to create database employee. So let's just confirm from the configuration file, it's known as department DB, right? So that is what I need to create. So create database department DB. Okay, so we have everything set. So what we're going to do is that if we show our databases, you can see that now we have the department DB required by the department service and the employee DB, which is required by the employee service. So the next thing that we're going to do is just run our microservices within this particular folder. So the first thing that we're going to do is to open an integrated terminal. We're going to start with the service discovery of the config server. So I'm going just to cd to the discovery server first. So it's going to be demo discovery server. So I'm going just to do mvn clean spring boot run. So I'm going just to run the discovery server. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is just to run the discovery server, which is going to download the particular dependencies required and it to be able to pick that one up. So we can just give it a moment to finalize and then we go to the next service. Alright, so you can see that after the service, when you start with the discovery server, you're able to see that one thing is evident here, is that whenever it's trying to start up here, you'll be able to see that it's trying to fetch some configuration from localhost 88.8. That is where the Eureka service is, right? So our Eureka or the config server is. So it's trying to connect to the config server and it's unable to find that particular details. Ideally, this should be the config server, right? So config, under the discovery server, this should be the config server. Config server address, right? So what we're going to do here is to start first the configuration server. So I'm going just to stop this service a little bit, and then we go to the second service first, which is going to be cd config demo config server, what is it, configuration server, and then we are going to do mvn clean spring boot run. So we need to start with this to ensure that we have the config server started before we start the discovery server, okay? Because it needs to fetch some configuration from the config server for the discovery server. So you can see it needs to fetch this particular information. Alright, so this one is going to start. Yeah, and you can see that everything else that is okay, quite okay. And now our demo configuration server is up to date and running using Java 21, right? Spring Boot 3.32 and making use of Java 21. As you can see, the configuration is that it's looking for this particular repository. So, but then at the same time, I'm going just to update this one because it's referring to the old repository. So in this case, I'm going just to refer to this particular repository, and in this case we are into copy path. Alright, so I'm going just to copy and update that one within here. Alright, so ensure that you have a double escapes. So I'm running this one here under documents where my microservices are, and that one, and also the demo config repo. But then if you have the repository hosted on GitHub, then you can just quickly specify the actual URL. As in this case, you just specify instead of file, then it's going to refer to the URI of GitHub. So that it's going to run on port 883. So what you're going to do is to quickly restart this particular service once again, just to pick the new URL. Okay. Yeah, as you can see, it's been able to start. It's starting at port 883, and you can see that it's exposed the Tomcat service at 888, and it started fully. Now the next thing that you can do is start the discovery server. Now it should be able to correctly being able to connect to the actual configuration of the config server. All right. So we're going to start this one. As you can see, it's running on Java 21. All right. So let's try it run. All right. So yeah. So one thing that is evident here is this. You can see that it's fetching some of the configuration from the config server. So you can see that fetching config from the server address, this one, all right, okay, and then it located this particular server, demo discovery server, and then the profile is default profile, and you can see that that was being able to start copy the configuration, and you can see that now it's fully started. Right. Now the next thing that we need to do is to start our API gateway. So I'm going just to open another terminal here and start our API gateway. All right. So it's going to be Maven clean spring boot run. Okay. So we are going to start our API gateway. Alright, you can see also now the API gateway has been able to start at port 7,000, sorry, and you can see that it's able to register itself to the discovery service. Alright, so let's just quickly open Eureka and confirm that all these services are coming up. So we are just to do localhost 8761, and you can be able to see that now the first service, which is the demo API gateway, has been able to register itself, and you can see that it's running on port 7000. So the next thing that we need to do is now start the actual services, which is the department service. So I'm going just to come up here and now ensure that my department service is running clean spring boot run. Okay, so in this case you can see that now we are starting up the department service. It's going to download some of the dependencies. Okay,